Hey everyone, you are here at Litvak Leadership Live. We're on the road. As you can tell, I've got a little bit of a different background today, but don't let that fool you. We are still here to talk about interesting things, and we're going to talk about leadership in a different way today. We're going to talk about leadership as it relates to a father helping his son. So I want to introduce you to my new friend, my fraternity brother from another campus, David Ogman. We've met each other through a fraternity networking group that we're both a part of. And David is working to help his son overcome a very serious disease. And with that, I'm going to throw it over to David. David, tell us a little bit about what's going on.
All right. Thank you, Sean, for the introduction and for allowing me to share my story with your audience. It's a really moving story, and it's something that everyone really needs to hear because this could have happened to anyone. My 5-year-old son Jordan was recently diagnosed with a rare, fatal, and neurodegenerative Jewish genetic disease. This is something that we never heard of, a disease that is so rare that only a few kids globally were diagnosed with this disease. The disease was actually just recently discovered as well. Jordan, we had a normal pregnancy and everything was fine, and we never had a clue that there was going to be any problems. But as Jordan started to kind of grow up and develop, we realized that the milestones became inch stones, and he just wasn't really hitting the goals that we saw in our 7-year-old daughter when Kira was growing up. And we knew something was kind of wrong. And we went to doctors and asked questions and probed, and no one could understand what was going on. No one had any idea. Everyone just said, give it time. Kids develop at their own pace, and give it time. Give it time.
Every kid's got their own timing, right? That's probably what you
that's
heard.
exactly what they all said. So we just kept, years go by, and then Jordan's 2, and he's 3, and at 3.5, still nonverbal, and he's not really walking, and we knew something was wrong. So at that point, we push even further to get a whole exome sequencing test.
Okay.
This is a test that's just tests for very rare or genetic diseases, and really takes a deep dive into what could possibly be going on that could be the cause of this issue. These tests are difficult to get, they're expensive, and it was tough to even find someone that would even suggest it to us, because we had no idea of this type of test.
And this testing, is this something that health insurance generally covers or doesn't?
Great question. My wife had to fight and fight and fight insurance for months to get this thing approved. I mean, really go to battle and make phone calls to the tops of these insurance companies, and it wasn't easy. It wasn't fun, but we knew we needed to get it done. And these things are expensive that families just can't afford without insurance.
Sure. And so now, and I'm assuming this is some sort of genetic test where they look at chromosomes and things like that.
Yes, exactly. They look at things that you and I would never even have thought to be a problem, or wouldn't even know to even think that it could be an issue.
So they do the test finally,
right.
And then they come back, and what do they tell you?
So they, the hospital calls us up, and a neurogeneticist says, "We found something. We need you to rush down to Miami and talk to us." We knew when we heard that, it's not going to be good.
Yeah, because they didn't tell you on the phone what it was.
Right, they wouldn't tell us on the phone. So we knew that, we're a little hopeful that maybe they found something, but you're also worried, what it could be. We get down to the University of Miami, and they say that Jordan was diagnosed with a rare, fatal, neurodegenerative genetic disease. There's really no research on this. There's no treatment, there's no cure, and there's no hope. We wish you the best.
Wow.
And that was where they left it. And Stacy and I look at each other. We start crying. We look at the neurogeneticist, and she's frozen as well. I mean, that's just what it is when you have these rare diseases where there's only a handful of kids globally um, that have been studied around the world, and there's just no cures, no treatments, and it's expensive for scientists, doctors, universities to study these things for just a few kids. We see, what it's taken COVID. It's taken every scientist on the face of the earth,
Right.
every hour of every day for a year, with unlimited dollars trying to figure this out. And that, if we think about how much money it's spent trying to cure COVID and how long it took, now just figure, 9, 10, 20 kids, what it would take to cure them and how they would come up with that money, and what scientists just want to drop everything they're doing to save, 10 kids.
Now is this, and here it's called what a name, TECPR2. So what does that mean exactly? I
Yeah,
mean,
so TECPR2 or TECPR2, it's so rare it doesn't even have a name yet. So it's just, the gene mutation that hasn't been named yet, and very similar to other rare diseases. That's how they're named. Maybe they'll get a name later on when more and more kids are discovered to be affected by this genetic disease. It'll take a name, but so far it's only been a few years, and there's still a lot of research going on. Most of the research, or a lot of the research is what we're doing through the University of Florida, who's really taken a deep dive into this over the past year since we went to meet with them, and has really come to understand what's going on. And they're hopeful. They're hopeful. We're really progressing with where we are.
and is this anything like, and I know nothing about this disease other than it is also a Jewish disease, called Tay-Sachs?
Yes, exactly. So it's very similar. There's like 19 known Ashkenazi genetic diseases.
Right.
They're just more prevalent in the Ashkenazi population, and yes, very similar to Tay-Sachs and other neurodegenerative or neuromuscular diseases.
So you guys end up, you went down there, you go to leave, you get in the car, and what's your conversation?
Our conversation is, they walk us to the door and they say, "Best of luck. Give Jordan hugs and kisses for as long as you have him here with you." But Stacy and I weren't going to take that for an answer. The
No.
good thing is that I'm in finance and I don't know anything about medicine, so maybe I was too dumb to understand that this is Jordan's fate. And I think that was maybe helpful, because I
Yeah.
said, you know what, I'm going to figure this out. And of course, I had no idea what that meant. I'm going to figure this out. But we booked a flight to Boston, and we went to Harvard and Boston Children's Hospital, and we figured, that's the center of all, the genetic disease universe and rare disease universe and medical expertise. And we went there, and they pretty much confirmed Jordan's diagnosis. There's no current treatment, there's no cures, and right now there really isn't hope for the kids. So we spent some time up in Boston, and meeting with neurogeneticists up there, and they were talking to us about the little research that there was, and what they've read and studied in the little research that there was, about how these kids' disease leads to respiratory impairment and respiratory failure, and they said that's what's going to happen to Jordan as well. We go back to our hotel room, and I start calling hospitals, universities across the country, and Googling and trying to figure out, what I can do now that I've been told twice there's no cure, there's no treatment, there's no hope. I call my alma mater, believe it or not, the University of Florida,
Right.
and I speak to one of the neurologists there, and they say, what, we actually do have a world-renowned scientist in Gainesville, Florida, Dr. Barry Byrne, who is the director of the UF Powell Gene Therapy Center for Rare Disease. He has devoted his life to studying, researching, and developing treatments and cures for these ultra orphan diseases, as they call them. And Dr. Byrne says, "Thank you. That's Dr. Barry Byrne." He says, "Get to Gainesville as soon as you can and bring me Jordan."
Good answer.
Right. Good answer. Good answer. We bring him We bring Jordan in there. He meets Dr. Byrne. Jordan does the gator chomp, which was just perfect timing. That Jordan, a kid with muscular development disorder, is able to do the gator chomp for Dr. Byrne. And Dr. Byrne says, you know what, Stacy graduated University of Florida Law School. You, David, graduated University of Florida undergrad. It's my obligation to cure Jordan and figure this out. It was just it was really amazing. And he looked at us as well and said, David, we don't just have the funds to throw a team together and stop everything we're doing to figure this out, but we're going to. But what I need you to do is tell me that you're going to raise me over $2 million, because it's going to cost more than $2 million. It could cost $4 million. It could cost $6 million. But we know it's not going to cost less than that, because we have to put a team together. We have to spend a lot of time figuring this out, a lot of research. We're going to have to go to the FDA eventually. We're going to have to figure out our manufacturing and production. We're going to have to figure out the cost of materials. There's a lot that goes into this. Can you do this? And the nurse behind him is waving, is like nodding her head, say yes, say yes. Because if you don't say yes, you're leaving the hospital, and that's it. And so we nodded our head yes. And I went home and I opened the Jordan Avi Ogman Foundation. And I just started fundraising through friends and family and getting the word out and telling people about Jordan's story, and that we finally have a diagnosis and it doesn't look good. And, instead of being embarrassed about it, I just went public. And speaking of leadership, this talk and your show is about leadership. How I jumped into that position of leadership to say, you know what, we're going to create this foundation. We're going to create this website. We're going to get out there. We're going to be public about it. We're going to tell everyone, scream from the rooftops. I mean, tremendous leadership. And I don't know where I get it from. I guess as a dad of a kid, when you get a diagnosis that your kid's dying, you just jump into that leadership position to do that. It can't be taught. It's not taught. You don't learn that kind of stuff in college, obviously. You don't learn that kind of stuff. You don't learn leadership. There's no leadership classes in college.
There are no leadership classes. Yeah.
You learn calculus, and you learn things that you'll never use in the rest of your life, but you don't learn.
You learn how to be a good employee is what you learn.
Right, how to punch a time clock and things like that, but never had to jump into a position of leadership like this. And that's what I've had to do. So it's been about a year now, and of course, the whole world was affected by COVID. Only a couple of months after we met with the University of Florida, the world was shut down due to COVID.
Right.
And I couldn't shut down my fundraising, my advocacy, pushing for Jordan. And that's where we've been for the past, year now, is figuring out how we keep advancing this and progressing Jordan's cure.
And okay, it's a terrible question, but when do they anticipate that Jordan will start having more pronounced symptoms?
Yeah. It is a great question. It's a horrible question, but it's a great question because it's something we don't want to think about, but which we do, of course, think about. And this is why my wife and I don't sleep at night, is that the disease is one which Jordan has progressed at age 5. And now he has progressed a little bit, adding a few words, walking a little better, still bumping into walls, falling, hurting himself. But it's a disease where you do progress, but then you hit a wall where the neurodegenerative aspects just really kick in. And that's what we're afraid of, is that every night we listen by his door to hear if he's breathing. We just don't know if he's going to wake up the next morning. Every night when we go to sleep, we're there wondering if Jordan's going to wake up, because this disease is one that leads to respiratory failure. And that's going to happen any night now, which is why it's a race really against the clock to get to find a cure, because we know that we don't have Jordan much longer if we don't get this cure. We know he's going to stop breathing. We know his body's going to give out. And even though he looks like a strong little kid, and some days he has good days walking more upright and not falling, and maybe he'll add a word or two, and maybe he can point and add a little bit of communication to point to the refrigerator if he's hungry, or to point at the door if he wants to go outside and get some fresh air. We have good bouts of optimism when we see little advancements like that, but we know it's a fatal neurodegenerative disease, and the brain is just going to stop. The toxins are building so quickly. The autophagy process has been impaired in his brain, which means that when you and I go to sleep at night, there's a natural process of cleansing of toxins in our brain that we don't even know is occurring when we're sleeping. That
Right.
process is impaired in TECPR2 kids, and those toxins are building, and it's just going to lead to, um, Jordan not surviving this thing without a cure. So that's where we are. But there's no timeline. There's no way to know exactly when that'll be. Only that there's not enough kids to really study to really understand the timelines and what the prognosis will be.
So on the website, savingjordan.org, savingjordan.org, you talk about how research for TECPR2 could lead to helping individuals who have ALS, Parkinson's, and Alzheimer's. Talk about how they're related, and how when people are helping you to help your son and other children like him, they really could be helping the populace as a whole.
Yeah, so some of the things we're doing. So ALS, Parkinson's, and Alzheimer's, of course, are all neurodegenerative disease as well. In adults and the pediatric population, a similar disease is TECPR2 and other rare ultra-orphan diseases that are neurodegenerative, similar to TECPR2. There's 7,000 rare diseases. So many of these pediatric rare genetic diseases are similar to ALS, Parkinson's, and Alzheimer's. We talk about ALS, Parkinson's, and Alzheimer's because those are names that everyone knows someone affected by them. You hear about it. They're a little bit more understood, but they're really not understood because there's no cures for those either. What we're learning from Jordan's process and framework of developing the AAV gene therapy cure is that there are ways to benefit these patients and hopefully come up with a cure. At the University of Florida, they have a large neurological institute, the Fixel Neurological Institute, where they're studying ALS, Parkinson's, and Alzheimer's. And then, in the same building or attached to that building is the Pediatric Center, which is the Powell Gene Therapy Center. All the doctors collaborate, the pediatric neurologists and the adult neurologists, and they all collaborate on what they're learning, and it's all translational to each other. It's a little bit different in how they go about it, but it's all translational, the research to helping each disease. And each disease is going to piggyback on the other one. That research and development, they're all collaborating and sharing ideas, and it's really tremendous what we're learning, and we're positive that there's going to be treatments and cures for all of these diseases in the near future.
I mean, I remember when my father's mother, we knew after my grandfather had passed away, we discovered that my grandmother wasn't quite all there.
Right.
But my grandfather had done a very good job of taking care of her in such a way that the family was absolutely clueless. But without my grandfather there, we realized very quickly that she needed help. And I remember over a period of, just several years, like 3-4 years, she went from, not, just a little bit of confusion to you're having a conversation with her, and then she'd look at you and go, "Now, who are you again?" And then, she would realize to when in the end, it was just full blown Alzheimer's. Helping your son, I think, everyone knows someone who has had Alzheimer's, I believe, at this stage of life. It sounds like helping your son and those other children could really help individuals with that collaborative research.
Oh, absolutely. And they're learning more and more about the brain every day, and they're sharing this information about the brain, and realizing that the autophagy process in the kids is similar to what's going on in patients of Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and ALS. And the more research they're doing on the brain, the more it'll help all of us. So it's tremendous that they're collaborating on this, and there is a lot of money going to these diseases. But of course, the money being raised, like say the Michael J. Fox Foundation for Parkinson's,
Right.
I mean, I don't know the dollar amount that's going to that, but I would imagine it's in tens of millions of dollars each year annually in donations at minimum,
Sure.
and they probably have hundreds of millions of dollars that have gone into research for that. With Jordan's, it's me and a few kids, and the problem with raising money as a rare disease parent is your daily expenses, the financial toxicity of raising a rare disease kid, between the therapies and between everything you have to do for the kid, changing their diet and doctor's appointments and going to intensive therapies, is just overwhelming. And the amount of money these rare disease families spend on their kids' care is more than you can make in a year. So let alone trying to find savings to save up millions of dollars to find a treatment. It's very difficult, and that's why we're doing a grassroots effort of me going out and running around and raising the money and figuring this out, because there's no money flowing to help 10 kids with a rare disease. There's no institutional money, there's no foundation money, there's no real government money. It all goes into somewhere doing something, but to trickle down and really figure this out, I had to roll my sleeves up and jump into the leadership position of saying
Absolutely.
I'm going to do this myself, and I'm not waiting for the government, or anyone to hand me the money, because that's not happening. It's a race against the clock for Jordan, and I need to figure this out now.
So let's talk about specifically how people can help.
Sure.
Obviously, they can donate. How much have you raised? How much do you still need to raise? Can
Sure.
people, do monthly gifts, one-time gifts? I'm sure there's lots of ways. What can people do to help?
Right. So it's always a moving goal line or goalpost, however that saying goes, because as the scientists are studying this, they're realizing this is going to cost more than we first imagined or thought, because during COVID, there's a shortage of supplies, there's a shortage of materials. All the labs and scientists across the country are hoarding all the materials that we need in their labs to develop the COVID vaccine. So there's a shortage of manufacturing, there's a shortage of production. We've had a lot of headwinds over the last year. It slowed us down a little bit. It's going to cost us a little bit more, but we're still forging ahead. And the University of Florida has not stopped or skipped a beat, which is tremendous. If you go to the savingjordan.org website, as you have below, savingjordan.org or savingjordan.org/donate, it'll bring you to the link for our website that'll take you to the GoFundMe page, that page exactly, to donate to Jordan's goal. The goal is $2.5 million. It's been absolutely tremendous and a miracle and a blessing that we've raised nearly $500,000 in the first year. To figure out how to raise $500,000 during COVID, from home, quarantined, and to send it all to the University of Florida to figure this out has really been a blessing. But we have a long way to go in terms of money we need to raise. And now we need to figure out what the next step is. Now that the University of Florida has researched and developed the gene therapy that they believe will work, we need to keep pushing. Not only do we have that GoFundMe page there, and that video is tremendous. It tells our story. It has my wife, Stacy, telling the story and the journey. Really heartbreaking. But we've raised money directly for the University of Florida. We have a P.O. box set up where donations come into. We have a few other donation websites. There's so many ways to help. And all that information is listed on savingjordan.org. But if you watch this story on the savingjordan.org website and watch that YouTube video right there, it's about a 7 or 8 minute video. It really explains our journey, what we've been through, what we need to do. And we're just trying to get the word out. So doing shows like yours to an audience that we can share the story with is really tremendous for us, for the advocacy. And you never know who will be touched by this and will share it as well. Or you never know if other parents of kids of rare disease will be watching and they need the inspiration from me to go out and do the same for their kid, and to go fight and battle and advocate, and to not give up, and not to just sit back and say, you know what, this is our fate, we're going to lose our kid. That's not the answer. because I do think that science has really evolved over the past couple of decades, that we're getting very close to developing these cures that we never thought were imaginable before.
That is just an excuse me, incredible story.
Right.
I saw where your chapter of AEPI had inducted your son into the fraternity.
Oh yeah, now you're gonna make me cry. Um, Absolutely. The University of Florida did decide to initiate Jordan at age 4 at the time into AEPI, into the fraternity. And they said, as an honorary brother, this kid is battling more than any of us in the fraternity have had to deal with in our lives. And they gave Jordan a little brotherhood pin, and they gave him a little jersey with his name on it that says AEPI, and they put him in the Lion newsletter for all the brothers across the country to see. And they've been a tremendous advocate and support for me, for Jordan. They helped us. We did a golf tournament a few months ago that AEPI was involved in, and they were there to help with Jordan's golf tournament. Now another chapter, actually, University of Arizona is doing a golf tournament to raise money for Jordan. The fraternity has been absolutely amazing, and a brotherhood for a lifetime, as they say, but it truly is. And it introduced you and me, and we'll be friends, going forward, and getting to share my story here is what the fraternity brought. So it's really been amazing.
Absolutely, and I am happy to share my platform with you
Right.
to bring awareness, for your son. But it sounds like that there are others who will benefit also.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely.
so, from the research that they've done already,
Right.
have the doctors told you at all that, oh, well, we have found out this much more, and here's something you can grab onto?
Absolutely, absolutely. They developed the 4 gene therapy constructs that they believe will be effective at curing this disease. So now, you go, there's more steps now that they figured it out, but they did figure out how to do it. So, we have a mouse model now, and the mouse has we give the mouse the TECPR2 disease, and then you test it on the mice to see, how it benefits the mice and if it cures the mice. And you still have to go in front of the FDA, and the FDA has to decide if it's effective and if it's safe. And, that's a process as well. So it's all a process, but our progress has been tremendous to get this far during COVID, whether or not it's COVID, just to even get this far for the scientists to figure it out and be optimistic
Yeah,
that Dr. Byrne developed this cure. The next part is just to keep pushing, but we're really just about there. The time will be a little bit longer, raising a little bit more money, but what we've developed is tremendous. And I think other little kids suffering rare disease will benefit from the R&D that has occurred over the past year from Jordan's disease. And we hope that that's an inspiration to other parents and kids out there.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. So when with the R&D going on, and then you have to navigate the FDA. I mean, how can you improve and force? Maybe that's not the right word, but I'm going to use it anyways. Force things through the FDA in a more effective and efficient timeline than what they had historically done. Because look, we've seen it done with the vaccine.
Right.
So can't they streamline it also for things like this?
Yes, it's a great point, and that's kind of the point that we're making to them, is that we see that the COVID vaccine, it was developed, it works, and what it has done to save lives, and we're hoping that the FDA realizes that there can't be a bottleneck anymore of bureaucracy of these things getting stuck in labs. They can't get stuck in labs. The scientists are doing tremendous jobs. We need to figure out how to get it from the labs into kids to actually save lives. And I think the FDA is realizing that, and we're pleading our story now, and putting that whole narrative together for them to understand what we've done. And I think that they are becoming more compassionate about that, and realizing that there's been tremendous advancements and breakthroughs in cures, and we need to get that to children. And I think the FDA is realizing that, and they're on our side, actually. They are on the side of curing these diseases.
That is tremendous. So we've gone 30 minutes.
Okay.
I'm going to turn it over to you now for the next few minutes
Okay.
for you to speak directly to the audience that's watching and those that will be watching this later on replay,
Right.
to just tell them about why they should help.
Okay. I don't know if I can say it without coming to tears, which is it's a really tough story to share and talk about. But even if you're out there and you haven't been affected by rare disease in your child or a family member, this is something that can happen to anyone. And by supporting Jordan and supporting the Jordan Navi Ogman Foundation, providing donations, not only are we going to cure Jordan, but I've always told everyone that I'm not stopping there. I'm not just doing this to cure Jordan. Of course, I need to cure Jordan, and Jordan's going to be the first kid and the guinea pig. But once we learn from everything that we discover in the lab, that's going to be translational into discovering treatments and cures for the other 7,000 rare diseases. We're not going to be able to cure all 7,000 rare diseases because they're difficult and time consuming and cost a lot of money. But absolutely every dollar spent will lead to research and development that's translational to the next disease and the next disease and the next disease. And like you said, you mentioned the streamlining. That's exactly what this is doing. We're going to then have a streamlined process. So when the next family comes to us and says our kid is suffering a disease, we're going to have a streamlined process to efficiently and effectively develop the treatment for that disease so we can get it to the FDA quickly to help positively benefit other kids out there. And we think this is really going to be transformative to the industry, transformative to anyone suffering from disease. And I'm not stopping and devoting my life to helping other families out there that don't have the resources, the time, or the knowledge, know-how to even figure out how to do this type of thing.
Thank you for being my guest today. I know that this has not necessarily been an easy story to tell, but I know it's a story you are passionate to tell and to get
Absolutely.
the word out. So
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, I really appreciate you having me here.
Everyone, that is Litvak Leadership Live for today. We will be back tomorrow with something not quite as serious, but join us then, and I hope you have a blessed day.